everybody. This is Chloe Hudson with World Peace Projects. Thank you so much for joining me. So I am so happy to be reaching out to you again. I have gone through a massive transformation and I feel like I'm truly a new person in the way I experience myself since last time I reached out to you. Now, today's video, I'm going to highlight some of those experiences because they may also relate to what you've been going through. And we're also going to talk about the great conjunction coming up super quick here on the winter solstice of December 21st, 2020. This long-awaited event has a lot of us white knuckling to see what's going to play out, what's going to happen. And I think that the perspectives and beliefs and curiosities, emotions run the gamut here. So there's a tremendous amount of fantastic professional astrological information out there that I truly advise that you check out so that you can get these differing research and opinions from astrologers that take different vantage points and start to support yourself and build your awareness around what is happening. I want to speak on the way in which I experience some of the elements and influences that will be on offer with this transit. So first of all, one thing that I noticed was really interesting that the Astrology King points out is that Jupiter and Saturn will also be conjuncting the fixed star of Altair in the constellation Aquila the Eagle. So, this brings in some awarenesses around the very militant experience that is also going to be at hand here. Now, a lot of the New Age is really playing into and buying into the idea of the 1,000 years of peace, the golden age, all this beauty and grandiose flamboyance around what's to come. And this, for many people, is satiating any of their more, material world concerns because they have invested their trust and, dare I say, blind faith into that experience. Now, Jupiter, as we all know, brings about a lot of experiences of luck and expansion, prosperity in those regards. It also brings in the potential to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and let yourself just kind of go wild with experiencing and indulging in your pleasures and fantasies and all that. So Saturn offers a bit more restriction that isn't always fun, right? But it can assist to anchor in more support and foundation for the more etheric Jupiter energy that is going to be more appealing to most. Though at the same time, on this type of channel, we talk about all the time how Jupiter represents Lucifer and Saturn represents Satan, right? So as I've spoken of many videos, we've got bad versus evil. Now they're both really kind of the same veins, but the way that they appear, the way they present themselves, right? Lucifer likes to offer up the pleasures, the seductions, and Satan just takes that real dark, evil, oppressive stance, okay? So we have a real mixed bag here. And it's important to understand that. I also think it's going to be really important to cultivate really specifically the ability to, first of all, find your resolve. It's something that I've been talking about to some of my students in our Tuesday Quantum Access pods. There is an about-face shift right now. And many of us have experienced this in the eclipse season that just wrapped up. So I'll tell you what. My personal experiences of first the full moon eclipse in Gemini. I'm Gemini's sun. And then we had the solar eclipse on, I think it was Sunday or it was Monday. Man, oh man, I'll have to tell you, I noticed my experience, and I knew because of my astrology that this was going to impact me in a really intense way. But the experiences of 2 weeks ago, a week ago, were delayed from the full moon eclipse that we had. It didn't really start to play out for me in my awareness, my conscious awareness, for the next week. And I will tell you that every single day of that week, something massive and life altering came up for me in my personal life. And it was like I couldn't even process one, and then the next day something would come up, totally different avenues of life, like different experiences and challenges. They related to different things, but they're all personal to me in my life. One of the days, 2 things came up. And I just was floored. And of course I was overwhelmed, but also proud of myself for the way that I navigated the challenges and had the ease. I felt really grateful that I had cultivated enough stealth and emotional flexibility to maneuver those issues and not let myself get too engaged in the drama or trauma of it. And I feel because of that, in a big way, towards the end of the week, the issues somehow seem to resolve or disappear, and or I registered that, c'est la vie, what do you do? You know, this is here now, and therefore I'm going to navigate it and deal with it because that's life, right? So good job, Chloe. Good job, guys, if you had that experience. And then we moved to this solar eclipse that we had on Monday, preparing us for this upcoming great conjunction that we're going to experience here in the very beginning of next week on the 21st. And man, oh man, I tell you what, didn't see this one coming. I got blindsided with truth. Now, I feel that what I've been going through is a little bit of a precursor for what's coming. And I appreciate that that happens because I feel that that assists me to give you guys, hopefully, a different vantage point and the ability to prepare for some things that may play out for you or that you may view in society or people around you. Now, without getting into the specific details of what happened this week, I do want to share with you that what happened to me this week is something that is an absolute theme of the decade ahead, okay? Because the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, notoriously every 20 years, kind of thrusts us into the new epoch, the new era. And there is a theme of this coming era around really having to expand into a new experience of who you are. And this can play out in either a flow and an allowance and an enjoyment and excitement for the upgrade and elevation and awareness of who you have blossomed into because of your work and dedication. Or it can play out in a way that is extremely tumultuous because you resist the change, there's fear, and you're not comfortable or willing to be honest enough with self around who you are and need to shift into, how that no longer aligns with you. You know, and so you can play either end of this seesaw here, though either way, there's going to be experiences in your life and in the mass global social experience where there must be an upgrade or a transition of sense of self or the way in which we experience our community, our global society. Now, to navigate this in an efficient way calls for a few things. First, be very, very willing in my suggestion to allow yourself to back up enough and observe and kind of give the benefit of the doubt that anything, many things possibly, that you perceived, how you navigate, how you experience kind of the structure, your identity, your characteristics, things that you've really aligned with. They've been foundational points in who you perceive yourself to be, to make a complete dissolvement or shift. This is something that happened to me this week. And while it broke my heart and I could feel the confusion and upset around it, because what it meant for me was a change that is not invited in my conscious self, nor something that I ever wanted to happen. And at the same time, which is a signature, especially today with the Neptune transit, is a signature of this experience, this event, of this conjunction, is that while these changes ultimately have the ability to offer you something so much more supportive and expansive so that you can prosper and really grow into yourself, especially, you know, those of us that do this work and we effort to understand our subconscious more and become who, a better version of who we are, or how we perceive ourselves to be better, then this opportunity is at hand. But in order to really embody that and take that on, there is this amazing requirement to even shocking, I mean, belief shattering, right, experiences where if you have the courage and the humility to allow yourself to show self what maybe isn't even you. What are some things, you know, and here's an easy example. It's like different societies regionally, right? Especially politically or religious based or whatever, they take on a very same general tone, right? You can see this with maybe where you're born in a region or your family. You're brought up with certain entrainments, indoctrinations, belief systems, and you embody that, you own that, and you allow that to seed in and blend into who you perceive yourself to be. That becomes a staple of your identity. And while you have owned it as a part of you, the reality is that if you were born in a different region or a different family, you may have extreme opposite experience or not even have those understandings of how you perceive yourself to be on your radar. So then, you know, we have to question, is this truly us at a true core depth level, you know, at our spirit level? Is that who I am? Or is that things that have been put into my field, my energy, my life, and I've taken that on and owned it because I didn't know anything else, right? Things like this. So a willingness to have these potential life-altering awarenesses about how you perceive yourself to be, but who you actually really are, or what you've been trying to sell yourself, especially if it's, you know, what you believe to be as assisting or a higher truth or authentic power, your you know, anything around your self-awareness and how you have a good standing as self, you know, through your ethical and moral codes. Those can come up to be challenged, and that takes a lot of courage and allowance to be willing to see that. And then you may need to go into a mourning process around that. But ultimately, if you're flexible enough, and if you have grace and resilience through change, then while you're in this experience of the process, you can see or feel or understand how once you move through this transition, the beauty that is on offer for you on the other side. And a signature of being able to earn that beauty and that upgrade and expansion is what you're currently experiencing now. And so the question comes down to, how are you going to experience it? Are you going to cultivate grace and resilience through this? And are you going to allow yourself to challenge yourself? Can you have enough humility and bravery to challenge where you stand in your own resolve? Okay, because that is one thing that keeps people from allowing a bigger perspective. And to challenge your own resolve and your own standing in what you perceive to be, what I would say, the light of your truth, is really pivotal for this conjunction. Because in addition to the expansion that is at hand here with the Jupiterian energies, there's also going to be an extreme convolution, confusion, restriction around the Saturnian structures. And in order to be able to detach and see what's going on and maneuver this precarious experience in regard to the restriction element, it's very important to have a more expanded outside perspective looking in. And in addition to that, to have a higher standing so that you don't drop to the level of this oppression. And if you happen to slip, you know how to get right back up. And having a higher vision that's realistic for you, and your reality is of your creation. So what's realistic to you may be fantastical to somebody else. And that's important, that you know what is possible and feasible for you, though it is a higher goal that you work towards. Because after all, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction offers us the ability to create dreams and goals and aspirations into tangible reality. But not only our dreams and goals and aspirations, in addition, as we know the basic foundational principles of manifestation, this also includes things that we simply have our attention towards. So where your energy is flowing, that can also anchor into tangible reality. And that's when we need to put ourselves in check around what it is we're putting our energy into. And do we have that focal point? Keep your eye on the prize. Or, you know, when you're dancing or you're doing yoga, you need to find that spot to focus on so that you can bring all your energy into the center and balance, right? And that spot is not within hand's grasp, but it's right there. It's close enough that you know that you can get there. Very important in this time. So in addition to this, other things that have come up, I think, are registering and accepting that while we've gone through a tremendous amount of trauma and challenges and upheaval and fear and what have you this year, right? And everybody is well overdue for a break, a reprieve, a connection, a unifying, a healing of spirit, nurturance, all of these wonderful things. And while there is a lot of expansion and opportunity on offer through this conjunction, I want us all to be very real and prepared about what also is to come in inevitably. And this is a really interesting experience around what the fixed star Altair brings in, because this energy plays out a bit like Mars. It's very militant. And interestingly enough, it also offers a support system to reptilian energy and the military. So, you know, I'll let you think about what that could mean. This also brings in a lot of fanaticism. So it could be religious zealotry. It could be people going off the handle into conspiracy theories. And either end of that gives certain powers of be validation to justify certain very militant or even further restrictions around the way in which that narrative is wanting to play out. Now, simultaneously, while all of this is happening, it's important for us to understand that there's also the matrix inversion of it as well. Okay, so the transit that's been playing out astrologically, astrologers are so brilliant at showing you why certain themes have been experienced, especially very specific themes around the diaper or the face muzzle, right? Or, other mandates or things that we've seen, right? The very opposing ideas around the injections and all of this. There's astrology that speaks to that and offers a celestial explanation in regard to those influences. And so there is these astrological influences that affect us. And while there's a way that plays out in a more normal cycle, there's also the way in which, what I like to say, just the controllers in general like to hijack that energy and take advantage of it. So let's talk about that for a minute, because that's the piece that we effort to have some awareness around and prepare for, right? And this again is us being able to effort, at least through our perspective, and find a place for us where we feel comfortable to take a more objective stance and a higher understanding and perceive this, at least through perspective from the outside. So we don't get too wrapped up and closed-minded around it. And the way in which the experiences and restrictions we've been going through is structured, and we've talked about this before, it's also specifically structured to, set up to prepare for different experiences that will play out astrologically. So in one way, there's the support through Aquarius of expansion through ideas, through communication, through community. And so then they've got the cap, which has restricted the ability to do that, right? And that will continue. Also, something that is highlighted with the astrology, unfortunately, is institutionalization, death. There is a very, a very profound experience here with the transits that line up and how the similarity of this transit aligns with the assassination or presidential death while in office. That's, anchoring in this timeline through the astrology, right? And also military reign. This also looks into ruling restrictions on society even more. This expands chemical research, this advances AI, and this offers more restrictions and filtering of the virtual platforms and way in which we relay our media and our information through the interwebs, which is very unfortunate, right? We're already dealing with that. But that will continue. So be prepared. Hopefully that will also mean that there's restrictions on those that, dominate the social media as well. Now, in addition to those kind of more material world implications, let's look at what this represents for the etheric realms, because we're going into Aquarian air energy, right? So we shift out of an earth element of Capricorn into an air element of Aquarius. And Aquarius has some very wonderful qualities that it offers us that I think a lot of us have been excited about for a really long time, the Aquarian age. Now, accessing the air energy, that's very obvious how air represents ether, represents those realms, okay? Now, some of the transits happening too also move into keen mental awareness, clairvoyance, things like this, right? So if we look at this with the experience of more of the matrix hijacking, it is very easy to see how the infiltration and infection of that level of AI and hyperdimensional imposition basically is already seeding in. Now, that's astrologically speaking. And now I want to look at what I'm experiencing just in general in those realms. So I can only communicate what I experience and what I see, you know, in my network of clients and friends and students. So this may not by any means be everybody's conscious awareness. I just want to put this out there because this is something that's been quite evident to me, and it continues and continues with the advancements, how the access, the way I was explaining it today actually to my client is, you know, in the Bible, when we have the, I forget exactly how to say it, but we have the different experiences that are the warning posts for the end days, right? And we've got, one is like the plague, and then one is where the locusts come in and infest, and one is when the water runs red like blood, all of these things, right? Okay, so the way that I'm experiencing this infestation right now on the etheric, but really it's on the matrix. It's like we're so tapped in. It's so, there's been such an expansion of access for the AI Borg systems in the way in which we're totally plugged into the quantum computers, and man, the program's running, and how much more real, how much more simulated the reality is, and so much more difficult to differentiate, or nearly damn impossible at this point, from what's true and what's the sim reality. It's like an energetic infestation of locusts everywhere, and most of us can't see it or experience it. We're not aware that we're walking through it, and they're smacking us on the head, and we're breathing it in and swallowing them and all of this stuff. It's just everywhere, right? And so this is a very precarious experience to navigate, okay? Because in one way, as we've talked about a lot, those that don't have any awareness of that, that they take that on as their real experience, right? So they believe it. They don't know any different, okay? And something that I'm really seeing right now more and more is, you know, my great example here is when Morpheus tells Neo in the Matrix that anybody that is still plugged in to the Matrix is potentially Mr. Smith. Now, we've talked about this a lot of times, right? So all of us that are still plugged in, I'm absolutely still plugged in, you know, we run the programs of Mr. Smith and the agents in the Matrix itself. And it's very hard to clarify what's what through self and through others, but also the way in which we may believe the programs. So one thing that I'll point out right now, just so that you can assist yourself and challenge how you perceive yourself to be and what it is you experience. Is this truly yours? Is it you? For example, I've spent so many years clearing out any mental chatter. I'm really proud of myself for what I've done on that regard, because that was prolific, especially in the days when I used to channel. It was just like nonstop. But also being able to recognize false emotional impulses, right? And this often gets coupled with like a negative thought, right? So let's say you start mulling over on something or someone, and then you start chomping on some negative thoughts around it, and then you're like, oh, what am I doing? I'm going off into this negative thing, whatever. That, and only with in one specific way for me, which I'm glad to see that, because it's not like this got blown wide open. There's just one vein that I'm going to have to cinch up again. That has come back in. And thankfully, because all of the work I've done, when that implements and there's this feels like an emotional charge, it's really more, for me, the charge is really, there is emotions, but it's like emotions that were already there being experienced are getting exploited by this program. And then it really tries to fuel the fire. And the fire is more of that physiological fight response for me, is how I experience it. And then that engages the thoughts and the negative. Ultimately, it's about separation, right? So it's good to note that that's something that's also being pushed in more. And also check your alliances and agreements and anything that you've worked to clear out already around any beings or entities or energies that maybe you were able to uncover or discover that you had attachments to or cords with or contracts, what have you. Recheck to ensure that those haven't re-anchored or come back up and found their own way back in and have been moving through the program again, okay? Also, I highly advise keeping a dream journal at this time. Very important to start to understand and work to have more cognizance and consciousness in your dream space. Very, very important. So, you know, there's a lot of things I want to say to you guys, but of course, it's unfortunate with the filtering. I just can't on this platform, which is one of the reasons I haven't shown up for so long. Unfortunately, I have resistance now because, you know, I don't know how to verbalize it in a way that is safe for all of us and gives me the ability to still reach out and connect to you. I am offering an advanced matrix decoding course coming up starting January 2nd. If you would like to join us and access more of this expanded information where we can truly speak on so much more in great depth about what's happening from my perspective and my awareness and research levels of, you know, the more advanced elements of the matrix and how all of these things are tying in, please feel free to sign up at the link below. If you're interested in joining us for this advanced matrix decoding course on Zoom, we'd love to have you. The cost is $285 for a 6-week course. These will be 2-hour classes every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The course starts January 2nd and wraps up on February 6th. This course is going to take us through a plethora of information that has a lot of revealment around soul consciousness, understanding the different elements and the allegories of deities through polarity, the light versus dark narrative. We're also going to talk about the times, specifically the revealment of the times and what's been going on, and how we can expand out into the more celestial understandings of that, and then compress back in to the everyday life events and agendas around that. We're going to look at different things such as consciousness transfer and the ways in which consciousness and souls are presented in this timeline that you may experience or be a part of. We'll look at different understandings around hybridization and galactic wars. I also want to talk about certain levels of mental constrictions, is how I'll say it right now, and looking at sovereignty and free will and everything in between. I'm happy to share the syllabus with you. If you would like to check this out on my website, worldpeaceprojects.global, I'd love to have you. This will also be the final prerequisite required for the Intuitive Soul Advancement certification. If you're interested in my Intuitive Soul Advancement Practitioner Certification course, this course is a 12-week program that will be starting on February 20 and wrapping up on May 8th. The cost of this course is $680, and we will dive in for 2-hour classes each week on many different avenues and understandings that I feel is very important to have a grasp on and be able to work through. A lot of this will be working together as a group and helping each other build and thrive your abilities, but also very important to clear out the muck that doesn't serve you. In order to qualify for this practitioner certification course, you must be able to show me that you have completed at least 150 hours of some type of subconscious shadow work that I deem valid. There is a huge list of what different types or modalities of shadow work you could have utilized. With a practitioner is always preferred, that we can dialogue individually about this and you can tell me your experience so I can let you know what I think about those different modalities or what your level of work has been. You will also be required to have completed 6 prerequisite courses that I have on offer on my website. Advanced Matrix Decoding is the final prereq for the certification. And in order to qualify for the certification, you will need to join us in Advanced Matrix Decoding Live. The other courses you're welcome to do on your own time. And there is one course, Dream Interpretation and Astral Projection, that has a test out option if you feel that you are already up to par in those understandings. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at worldpeaceprojects.global. I'm so happy to see you there. I hope you join us. Take care, nation. I hope you guys are doing really, really well. I miss you. I am so happy that I am back with you. And I just send you guys so much support and love. I want you all to find and cultivate or expand on your ability to find joy in all of the little things, because, you know, honestly, while we're going to have a lot of expansion and wonderful opportunities upcoming in this winter, on the flip side of it, we're also going to have this experience where there's more restrictions, there's more fear, confusion, you know, of all of this world narrative that we're experiencing, right? So we have to cultivate more strength and stealth through that. And another thing I want to say, and I'm going to make this a little bit vague, but those of you who know what I'm talking about, you're going to get it. Spirit is not polarity. You absolutely do not need to make or speak an oath or a declaration of a polarity stance or timeline that you choose. That is not truth of spirit and eternal life. Spirit is pre-polarity, any duality. We experience these things in this realm, but it does not mean that that's the ultimate truth, nor does it mean it's something that you need to work to align with an effort to keep yourself polarized in that way, okay? Now, another thing that I want to say as well is I perceive there's also a overlay and a hijacking of the timelines right now. So this is another really important reason to find your higher goals, your higher aspirations. And before you anchor on your conviction of those higher goals, check, double take that that is truly aligned with your truth. Because after all, our higher goals and aspirations are expression or projection of what we perceive ourselves to desire in alignment with who we perceive ourselves to be. So give yourself the opportunity, as we spoke about, to engage in any changes and revealments about self. Peel away that kind of clay barrier around you to reveal a new expression of self. Start to be brave enough to uproot and expose things that, you know, programs that have been running in the background that aren't actually you. And then when you work to understand and see those, then you can start to have more clarity on your truth through and through. And there's always going to be revealment, always. That's the nature of our experience as a child of spirit. And then utilizing that new revealment to have your eye on the prize of your higher goals and aspirations that will ultimately expand you into a much more fulfilled experience of yourself on all levels, regardless of any restrictions or confusions or, you know, turmoil that may be coming up, right? Because we're all on a wild ride, man. And when there's downs, there's ups and vice versa. So it's important to have the ability to enjoy those and navigate it and learn from it. Thanks, guys. I love you so much. I hope you're well, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.